What's going on, guys? Tobin here with you, and I appreciate you guys checking out the channel. If you could, please subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. And if you could, watch the Tobin and Leroy show live every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Appreciate everybody who checked out our free agency episode with all the Jalen Ramsey news on Monday. We'll continue to follow everything that's going on there and roll with it as we go. It's always tough, especially when news being able to break whenever it might break. Doing this on Tuesday night, I very much assume that once tomorrow rolls around, Aaron Rodgers is going to agree to be a New York Jet. I mean, I think we all have been welcoming that expecting that to come, and that news I'd imagine is going to come on the Pat McAfee show. I thought that was actually today. I wasn't clear when his regular appearances are on Pat McAfee, but I definitely thought that yeah, that's going to be where it is. You're not going to show – Pat McAfee's a big deal. You're not going to just show up on his show this week after all this hemming and hawing. And you do the cute thing with Brandon Marshall, and you give him that platform every week. And I'm even Pat McAfee's listen, dude, you know how much shit I've taken for having you on between the whole wackadoo conspiracies and all that? I've just kind of heard you through it. You better give me the announce of where you're going. So I fully expect that to be the case, that we'll learn Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet. If I'm wrong, I guess I'm wrong. But I think that everybody can see the writing on the wall, and Trey Wingo can breathe a loud sigh of relief. And then we can all just root against Aaron Rodgers to go on some spirit quest and flame out with the Jets. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, since the big splash of getting Jalen Ramsey and they locked up their backup quarterback, they have been busy. They have been making a lot of value moves for Miami. There really haven't been any big splashes. It did feel very much on Tuesday like the Dolphins were in big splash mode. There was a lot of running back fodder that was out there, right? You had Tua's trainer coming out, and he's spelling Dolphins with a 4, and he also trains Dalvin Cook. And it's just a really cool story. Chad Ochocinco was coming out today, and he was campaigning for it. Even Tyreek Hill was making fun of Ochocinco for saying "we." Barry Jackson, credible as they come, is saying that the Dolphins have kicked the tires basically on Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler, who now has permission to seek a trade. So you get all of these big name guys out there, and I think the Dolphin fan got a little goosed up, thinking that possibly another harpoon was going to get sharpened and thrown to another orca, and that Chris Greer was going to land one. Instead, what we get is the news is that Raheem Mostert, he signs and agrees to a 2-year deal with the Dolphins, so he's coming back, and Jeff Wilson, he is also coming back for the Miami Dolphins. So as Chris Greer said at the Combine that they would be very comfortable running it back with their running backs, that does appear the direction they were going, which I'm not going to lie, disappointment is the wrong word, because I like both of those guys as players. Raheem Mostert, fast as hell, good character dude. Mike McDaniel and him, as great a coach-player relationship as it gets, with how tight they are. And then the same thing with Jeff Wilson, a guy that Mike McDaniel scouted. They both know the system really, really well, and I think consistency is a big key for everybody involved this year of learning year 2, especially if you think about this Dolphins team and how many illegal procedures they had this year, legal shifts they had this year, all those types of formational problems that they had. Your big hope for the Dolphins this year is that there is a big cleanup of all of those penalties, and then a big thing of that will be the consistency of basically everybody being out there and there not being too many changes on the offense. So totally get why this is the place that they want to go. They also do have some big ticket guys that they do have to pay. I'm just saying, though, if you're going to look at the star power that's all coming in, you get your big orca on defense and Jalen Ramsey, and he's going to be the big voice over there. You did a lot of your offensive splashes. That tight end is kind of elusive right now, and I want to get to that in just a second, where Mike Gesicki and everything stands there. But, would have been cool. First of all, it's cool stories all around, right? If we could play Fantasyland, Dalvin Cook, homecoming, that's just Mike White, all respect. That's a cool story, but Dalvin Cook, that's a star homecoming. Like, that's really cool. And he kicks ass in that stadium. Austin Eckler, that's just picking up from the Chargers, who there's like a little semi-beef with now. So that would have been hilarious. And then Derrick Henry, like, you're talking about like more, all Madden stuff coming in here. You have a freight train to go with your plethora of speed all around, and now you just add a battering ram in the backfield, which it does feel like Jeff Wilson can provide some of that for the Dolphins, but they, if there is a move down the line somewhere, that type of running back, could be something that they get into. But Jeff Wilson did provide a lot of that angry power running and did change the tone of things in that backfield, and certainly with what they were getting from Chase Edmonds early in the year, which was a big goose egg. So, it's not the splash I think everybody was expecting there, with especially with all the rumors that were out amongst Twitter, but still not a move I think anybody's upset with bringing those guys back either. The one that was, I think, most intriguing to everybody was bringing in David Long, the linebacker, because, look, I'm going to be frank with you, I didn't know much about him. I'm like, David Long, all right, that's cool. The first thing I actually, I go to his Wikipedia, and the first thing I say, you guys know I'm a big fight fan, and the first thing it says is his father was a former heavyweight boxer and fought Deontay Wilder. And I was like, huh. So his father got knocked out by Deontay Wilder. And sure enough, you can look it up. It is right there. His father took a hell of a first round knockout from Deontay Wilder, which people can make fun of all they want. First of all, if I'm going to get knocked out by anybody, maybe the greatest knockout artist in heavyweight boxing history. Yes, that does include Mike Tyson. If you're talking about percentage wise, Deontay Wilder is as vicious as they come. So no shame in that game, Mr. Long Sr. But, learning, in the reports around him as far as, the Titans record without him. And the only real downside that it seems to be with him is, you could say he's a little undersized, but this was a stat that I learned today. I didn't even know it was a thing. Run stuff rate. And he had like the number 2 run stuff rate in all of the league. And was in there with some beasts. Like, you're talking about, he's right there above this run. I was like, what the run stuff rate? What the hell is run stuff rate? And some of you are more statisticians than old Tobes here. But he was number 2, and it was ahead of Matt Milano and Bobby Wagner. So, like, a guy that everybody was definitely in on and wanted, Bobby Wagner. Well, they get this guy at a much cheaper rate. And Warren Sharp even described it as a healthy robbery. If healthy, it's a robbery. So that's pretty cool. He did have some hamstring issues, although David Long did put out this tweet, which was really funny. Something to the effect of, they're treating me like I tore my ACL, because Vrabel was really getting on. I'm sure Vrabel's a guy who's probably really hard on his linebackers. So he had some hammies, which were an issue. But we've seen with Chris Greer, not something he's scared of. Like, that is a policy of his. People are available. Best ability is availability. Not for Chris Greer. If you have a little bit of injury past, he thinks your ability is your best ability. He's not really concerned with that. We see this with Teron Armstead. We see this with drafting Jalen Waddle. We see this with drafting Tua. We see this with a lot of the free agents that he goes after, and it's not something that scares him off. Clearly, with them giving Tua the 5th year out, he believes in the talent of the player. If somebody gets hurt, they get hurt. It has bit them in the ass before. It's helped him out before. So I thought that was probably I would say that's probably, it's not a splash signing, but I do think it's the one that probably has the Dolphin fan most intrigued out of all this, because it's new. It's hard to match the excitement of a Jalen mother bleeping Ramsey coming to your team. Let's be real about it. But still cool. And maybe there's some willingness. The only thing that is kind of strange out there is Mike Gesicki. And I could look like a fool when I post this. Maybe something will happen. Just feels eerily quiet, yeah? I don't know. I'm Twitter, Dolphins, Reddit, wherever. I don't see a rumor about him. I don't see him drawing interest. I know Darren Waller ended up going to the Giants today, so that feels like a team that could have maybe used him, and then is now out of the tight end game. And so very strange that he is. I know that he did make a comment over the weekend about the price of slot receivers as compared to tight ends, but really nothing on Big Mike. So curious. I still don't think he's going to end up back with the Miami Dolphins, but it is interesting that there doesn't seem to be anything circling in Mike Gesicki land. So maybe something will pop up tomorrow, and I'll look dumb on that. And by tomorrow, I mean Wednesday. But because technically by the time I post this, it will be Wednesday. But yeah, I don't know. I find it weird. There's just nothing on Mike Gesicki at all. It seems eerily quiet. But the Dolphins making a lot of sound. They did restructure Jalen Ramsey's deal, so that frees up to some cap space. And then they'll get more cap space too once the Byron Jones date becomes official. So maybe there'll be some later moves to come for Miami. But they really seem like if you wanted to shore up something, they definitely had to shore up cornerback. Didn't have any running backs under contract. Now they have their backfield back. Needed to fix linebacker. The other shoe that could drop is this Jordan Poyer news. Although that was interesting today too, because there was a lot of there was some interesting social media activity for Brandon Jones because he was not posted in a graphic that NFL had put on with the Dolphins secondary of Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey, and Snowman. And he's like sitting here waving on Twitter, like, hey, buddy, please, Brandon Jones, And even Javon Holland came out in support of him on social media. He goes, I'll take Brandon Jones any 365 days. I'll take Brandon Jones. And those guys are close. They have a good relationship. They know each other really well. I remember speaking with Brandon Jones about this at training camp this year, where he's just like, yeah, and I think it helps our communication a great deal. It's coming off that ACL. So maybe there's concern there of when he'll be ready and just kind of shoring things up. I don't think just because if Poyer comes here that he's going to be a ghost and not used. Like, hell, this is the NFL, man. Like we saw last year, if they, and it's not like they got to pay Brandon Jones big money. He's here. So I don't think he's going to go by the wayside just because they try and shore things up with maybe a veteran and a veteran who knows the Bills very well. But it was interesting to see that for sure on social media action that he was getting some support publicly from his guy, Javon. But as far as everything else, we'll see what the next day brings in free agency. I imagine we'll officially get Aaron Rodgers as a Jet. I imagine, we'll have to hear from all those yahoos spelling their team name, chanting, that fireman dude. Oof.